Alright everybody, welcome back to Aquatic Space. I'm sure by the time you watch my first video you'll get the name, but if you notice my first video I didn't have a name for the channel or for the tank. I came up with a name for the tank. It's probably a little nerdy, but it's Aquatic Space Station. And I feel like Aquatic Space is pretty good, pretty basic name so everybody can get. And the way I picture it's, you know, this is kind of like a space station. You know, you got life support for your fish, and they're coming out of the ocean. They're in the atmosphere that doesn't support them, and so you have this little like rectangle that is keeping them alive. It's kind of like a space station up in space. So that's where I went with that. No, a little crazy, but I'm gonna recap a little bit because there's a couple things I didn't cover in the last video. I know I kind of blanketed everything from there on, and then now I'm gonna be able to target what I specifically do. If you guys noticed, I'm gonna go back to my little book here. Yeah, the last video I put fog on day 2 through 7, and some of you guys might have been wondering about that, but basically what that was, and I'll try to add a picture to the tank when it was like that. I did not do what is recommended on RODI water, which is reverse osmosis distilled water. I don't have an RODI unit. I added water from the faucet. Now I know everybody's like, you're gambling with that, but in this cycling process there's no fish in here. But I believe that added to why it was foggy. And I looked up, I was like, man, it was crystal clear like this the first night, and then I come back out and it's totally foggy. Like, you can't see the back of the tank, especially if you look through the side. You know, it was terrible. You could not see the chairs on the other side. So what I looked up was that was actually just like a free-for-all bacteria. I guess they just bloomed and they just like haze over the tank. So if you have that same problem on your new tank, it's probably, if you use tap water, it's because you got all those nutrients and stuff that you don't want in your tank. The bacteria is just kind of having a free-for-all and massive reproducing. And I looked up, they said it'll go away, so you don't really gotta worry about that. At first I thought it was the sand suspended in the water column, but you know, as time went on I was like, well, how long is it going to stay up there? So that wasn't the case. It was just a bunch of bacteria, and you know, they fed on all the junk that's in the water. It's probably happens, you know, like I said, worse because I use tap water, and then it went away. Another reason why I use tap water is, you know, not only do I not have the RODI unit, but this is 93 gallon or 91 gallon tank. I'm not gonna go out and, you know, after I just bought the tank, buy 93 gallons of water in a grocery store. That'd be like 4 or 5 shopping carts worth. Yeah, so I think I covered everything I didn't cover in the last video. So for this video, we're gonna seed the tank. So what this is I bought this from Algae Barn, and it's to seed the tank. So came with several things. I looked online, watched several other YouTube videos, and their packaging's changed up since then. So I'll just cover some of their stuff, and then I'll show you guys as we added the tank. Because like I said, anytime I do something to the tank, it's going to be my first time ever doing this. So, you know, for all you first timers out there, you kind of get an idea of, you know, what I'm doing, you know, and I know I'm not experienced, so I may not be doing everything correct, but I do my research big time and things that I'm working on, as y'all seen in my last video with my PC build and stuff. So anyways, yeah, so their packaging changed up a little bit. Their box, they did come with a sticker somewhere in here. They did not come with the little candy fish, which I was a little sad about. I kind of wanted to try that out, but I don't know. I can see that they probably want to save money. Everybody mentioned a lot about their packaging and how well it was. It was like a type of insulation. This is just like a bubble wrap, which to me seems fine. Right now it's getting close to summer here in Georgia, so it didn't come with a heating or cooling pack. I think it's probably right around the way they would consider pretty good to ship without a heating pack or cooling pack, probably to save them money. And same thing with the insulation, or maybe they just changed it to save money. I don't know. So I think I may have mentioned it in the last video, but I went ahead and ordered some Turbo Start. This is basically going to be some bacteria, so it's going to cause the ammonia in the tank. I've been ghost feeding the tank once a day with just some flakes to try to get the bacteria growth going. And then I mentioned that I put some nitrifying bacteria from really like a local fish store and a no-name brand in the tank, probably on like day 2 after filling this up. So I don't know how well it did it. I hear the reviews from Algae Barn really good, so I figure this is some higher quality stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in there. This right here is a 4-ounce bottle, I believe, and that covers 100 gallons. Mine's 91, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw the whole thing in there. It also says on there that if you're just starting a fish tank, you can actually throw 5 times the recommended amount in the tank, but they don't recommend that, obviously, if you have fish in the tank. So in theory, to really jumpstart my tank, I could throw 5 bottles of this in there. Again, as long as I don't have fish or anything like that. The second thing we got, I was talking about we all need to not jump the gun, even though I'm doing it a little bit, and kind of get the cycle going. So the bacteria, the next thing on the list is going to be phytoplankton. So this is going to be 4 different species of phytoplankton, and from what I understand is this stuff smells pretty bad. I've not opened it yet, but that's natural. They said it's healthy. On the back it'll say corals eat it, the arthropods, the copepods, stuff like that eats it. This is really healthy for the tank all around, but that it comes with a pretty bad smell, so that's going to be okay. If it's like a rotten egg smell, it could be expired, but I think they got an expiration date on here. But anyways, also something you guys can look into, and I failed to do this. I did look into it, but then it just said it on the back. There's a lady who did a video over this, and she got from a different brand, and they said you can freeze it, and it would lengthen the period of time before it expires, because hers was like 2 months, and it would expire, but it was so many doses. It was about a year's worth dose for her fish tank. So she didn't really know what to do with it. She called the company that said you could freeze it, and she put it in, I can't remember the lady's channel, but she put them in ice cube trays, and that it extends the life of these to 2 years is what she said. But this says do not freeze, but to put in the refrigerator, and that'll extend the life of the bottle, and then also to shake well and all that jazz. Alright, I looked at the pods already. They're all alive. I got it in this makeshift mason jar, and I know it looks really dented, and you're like, how can glass dent? Well, this is plastic, and I'm assuming due to them being at a different altitude, we're about at sea level, it sucked in. So yeah, the packaging's fine, and I'm sure the handling was fine on this as well. The box has it all over the outside on telling the people who's shipping to handle it well. It's just it was at a different altitude, so I imagine that's why it sucked in. But I'm going to take it in a dark room so I can show you guys. I really want you guys to be able to see. I don't mind my AC unit. I'm wanting you guys to be able to see the Copepods, hopefully. I haven't tried this yet, but oh yeah, there we go, that works. Alright, so as you can tell, they're swimming around in there. There's, I would definitely say probably thousands of them. I didn't really shake this up or anything, but you can see them just jumping all around. They look pretty healthy to me. The box and everything was at a good temperature, like filling the jar, it's at a pretty good temperature. Now again, I watched a lot of videos where they say that you want to float this stuff and get it to your fish tank's temperature. I'm thinking, again, I know this is probably people who's really meticulous about what they do, probably a no-no to them. But I'm not going to float this. I think it's pretty close to the 79 degrees of my fish tank. Plus, it's actually been sitting in the house for a while. I had to run and go get my wife. So, so I'm thinking it's pretty good. On top of the jar, it says the salinity. It's going to be 0.025, which is what everybody pretty much recommends the salinity at. It's got 3 different copepods in it, and it says that it has 5,280 plus copepods. Definitely not going to count each individual copepod. I'll take their word on it. But anyways, like I mentioned, I'm going to be running a reef tank, so the salinity needs to be really around 0.025 anyways. Some people suggest even higher to 0.026. Salinity definitely needs to stay consistent though, from what I understand. Mine is right now probably a little under 0.025. It's probably 0.0245, so I would say it's right in the middle of 2.4 and 2.5. So I figure as I add like a skimmer and everything, it's going to take up water volume, then the water will evaporate, the salt will stay in there, therefore the salinity will go up with the tank. So I'm not going to add any more salt to the water, because I plan on adding a few things. Alright, we're going to go ahead and add some of this stuff, and we'll try to watch them go fall in there. I'm going to go ahead and take the lid off of this. It's hard to do with one hand. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put the nitrifying bacteria in there. And so, again, just make sure you're putting the correct amount. I don't think it's too serious when you don't have fish in your tank. So here we go. I'm going to add probably about 3/4 of it up here in the display tank. So I'm going to go ahead and add it over. I don't have a power head yet. I'm going to get that this weekend. You know, because flow is very important to the to having a successful reef tank. My wife and I'm gonna go ahead and make a video about that too, but we're gonna be going to some sort of convention or whatever that like a frag deal. I don't even know what it's called. I'm that new, but I'm excited about it, and I'm gonna show you guys videos of it too. So that's gonna be really cool. Yeah, so see, you already seen me mess up. So basically what you're supposed to do is shake the bottle, and that's why I'm getting all this out of the way now, before I get fishing here. There we go. And now I'm just swirling it a little, but make sure you shake it. Yeah, so bacteria in the water. I'm not sure if I mentioned in my last video, but I will be putting a fish in this weekend. I'm not going to tell you guys what I'm getting yet. I've done a lot of research on it. It is a difficult fish. So it's my first fish ever saltwater, and it's a difficult fish. So I know, probably kind of controversial to some people, especially since they're like, well, you can't even shake a bottle when it gives you that instruction how you can keep the fish alive. I'm a pretty determined guy, so I'm just going to go ahead and get some salt water in there and shake it out so I can get it all my money's worth out of there. I'm a penny pincher to some degree. I don't have to pay for this stuff. Alright, so the bacteria's in there. Again, I've been ghost feeding, so they should have food all on the rocks, all in the substrate, and substrate in the bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and add. Now, I'm not going to tell you guys all the instructions on here, I already forgot, but I know I need to add 25 milliliters of this stuff each day. It gives the measurement per water volume, which again, I just go off 100 gallons because mine's pretty close. When it comes to dosing in the future, I'm going to get right on to 91 gallons. I'm not going to round up, but when it comes to stuff like this, I'm just going to go ahead and round up. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a little over 15 milliliters in this little extra cap here. All right, so I got the bottle open and I'm gonna take a whiff of this. I just have to, I'm curious. I'll tell you guys what it smells like. Oh, they did say shake it. I don't know, I can't really smell that much. Oh. Let's see here. We'll shake this one up and do it right. Oh, I gotta say, I can't really smell anything terrible about it. But I'm gonna go ahead and dose about a little over 15 milliliters into the tank here. And then I'm just gonna give like a splash in the bottom. Again, when it comes to this stuff, I'm not gonna measure it out totally. It's, you know, it's phytoplankton and stuff, so I don't think it's that terrible. But again, when it comes to dosing your tank for like elements like calcium, magnesium, phosphates, and stuff like that, I will get that down to a science. I don't believe this stuff's that big a deal. Yeah, there's a lot in that turbo start. So, all right, so we got the Copepods still down there. I've been letting the tank settle for probably about 10-15 minutes now. I'm gonna go ahead and shut off the pump. So if you have had, like I've had a freshwater tank that was 90 gallons before, it's never had a sump. I didn't know how a sump and all that works, how it, you know, pumps water up to the top and then sends water back down. And it's really interesting actually on how to dial in, because there's different water levels. There's different chambers in the sump and there's a different water level at the top. So you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. If I can find my flashlight. For anybody who's thinking about buying a tank that's got a sump, you'll kind of see, you know, they'll tell you you shouldn't fill up the water too much to where the sump will overflow, because it's going to take some water from the top. But so right now we got overflowing these little I want to say they're grates, but I don't know. I would say they're about 1/4 inch of water flow over the top. I really hope I don't drop my phone in here, but it's waterproof, so it's all right. The pump I have in there, the water is just below the tubing, so that's where the water level's at. You'll see that it's going to rise tremendously when I shut this off. All right, yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and power this down here. Water's going in there. And now the water is traveling back through the pump. So if you can tell, the water level is much higher. It's pretty much level now with this chamber. It doesn't waterfall over in this little bevel anymore. Something else I've realized is when you shut the power off to your tank or the pump, and you have a sump and everything, it changes up the water levels in each chamber. And in the display section, you can also see how much it's dropped due to the little water line there. So I'd say probably about a good 1/2 inch at least of water. And I don't know, just kind of fun to show you the Red Sea. You can actually drain even more water by just lifting one of these up. Just because the bottom section is about another 1/2 inch. I don't know if you really want to do that or not. So we're going to go ahead and let the tank settle and kind of clear up a little bit. It doesn't give really good instructions on that mason jar about how to put the Copepods in, but I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, and basically they said to cut your skimmers off and your return pump, and just basically anything you got going, especially UV sterilizer. That's going to kill any of the little babies or whatever when they go through the UV sterilizer. I don't have any of that stuff right now, so I'm just going to cut the return pump off and let everything settle. All right, everyone. A lot of this stuff, let's see if I can pick it up on camera. Look at that. That is not the glass. That is suspended very still in the water column. It's very interesting. I guess maybe the buoyancy of salt water. I think it looks pretty cool. Alright, we got the lid off. I'm gonna go ahead and dump these in a little bit in down here, but then I'm gonna dump some into the main display so you guys can see them swimming around a little bit. Yeah, basically I'm just gonna dump them in two sections. I'm gonna dump them in my refugium section. That way they can seed down here in the substrate and this porous rock / coral, whatever I got, and then that stuff in the back. But I want you guys to see them up here. This is gonna be pretty interesting. It's gonna be fun watching them swim around, I think. I don't have fish yet, so these are my fish. Oh, here we go. This is the one I'm looking at. There we go. Look at them. Zooming around. Oh, there's one going up. Yeah, so they're really cool, interesting little creatures. Well, I had that one. Oh, this one's scooting around. Alright, everybody. I waited probably about an hour, I would say, with the water shut off. I think there's some perks to adding these pods and all the stuff seeding your tank prior to getting fish, because you can keep the water off longer. It gives them a better chance of settling in the tank. You can still see several of them are still you know, on the glass. I've seen a couple in the water column. That's just going to happen. But you know, I definitely see a lot less of them, and so I imagine that they found their way to the rock and the substrate. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the pumps back on. Something else that I did was I set my filter sock, just kind of hanging everything over this edge here. The reason being was the filter sock was the first, so when the water comes down here, it comes up over and then down into the filter sock is the first thing that catches it. And I really didn't want the water going through the night, and the filter sock's really like fine. It definitely catches a lot of stuff, so I didn't want it catching like 1,000 of my little Copepods, and I didn't have the power to swim out of it. So I'm just going to let the tank run for about 24 hours to tomorrow, and then I'll go ahead and reinstall the filter sock back into its proper spot, and that should give all the Copepods ability to live, not get caught. So we're going to go and plug this in, and you'll be able to see the pump work. I always like doing that. It looks pretty cool. But anyway, so it's going to fill back up, and when you have something like the Red Sea Reefer, it fills up fairly quick, so the water back here runs out pretty quick. I don't know why, you kind of have to adjust it. So we'll see, because you don't want your pump running dry. So as this fills up, we'll see if we run the pump dry. If we run it dry, then I can go ahead and adjust this knob to release more water, like it is kind of already. It seems like every time I shut this off, I kind of have to like recalibrate the tank to get the water levels correct, because the problem you're going to have with the Red Sea Reefer is either one, the water level will drop in the pump section, or you're going to have this right here that's going on, and a massive amount of bubbles is going to come out, and so you can kind of hear it. That coupled with several other things can get pretty loud. You have that. You got the little bevel section, which kind of starts creating a waterfall, and then also back here. Well, it's pretty low right now, but if you restrict the flow, so those bubbles stop, then you can end up filling this up, and then the water will start going over the the emergency overflow. And if anybody's looking to buy these, I'm sure you've probably looked into all this already, but this is the regular line that runs into the sump. And then, you know, if a snail, like everybody says, or gets clogged or somehow, you have this emergency tube. So you don't want to restrict it too much, because then the pump area is going to run dry. You don't want it you know, fully open, because then it's just really loud in your living room. And so as you can see, the water level starting to rise in the back. So what I do is, once it gets pretty close to the emergency overflow, I'll turn it counterclockwise. I'll just kind of hone it in to where it holds at a certain level. But it is kind of a pain in the butt to have to, you know, you feel like you got it set, and then you go turn it off and turn it back on, and it throws everything out of whack. So kind of interesting how it happens. One last shot before we go. He's swimming up to the surface. A little engine that could. Maybe I'll name these guys. No, probably not. All right. Aquatic Space out.